Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Gear Talk. And this time I'm going to show you the images that I took with the first roll with my Contax RTS that I reviewed in this video here. Before we begin, as usual, if you want to support the channel, please subscribe, put a like, share with your friends, and if you want to do something more, check out my website and you can find there the books that I wrote and I sell, and check down my t-shirt, you can find them down in the description. This said, here is the slideshow that I made. A little premise before I show you the images is that I took these images with the Agfaphoto APX. Is a film that I never tried before. I read around that is the Cantamer by Ilford, the 100 ISO, just rebranded by Agfaphoto. For the images I used two lenses, the 50mm 1.7 Zeiss, obviously on the Contax, and the Zeiss 28 2.8. Looking at the statistics of my videos, I see that there's a lot of attention deficit disorder around, so here the slideshow and then I talk about the images later. As you can see, I didn't retouch the images for this video. When I test a camera or a film, I just scan the images with my Imacon 848 and I leave the images as they are. I just regulate the Instagram to have the highlights and the dark lights correct in the picture, and I do not do dodge and burning and all these kind of things. I didn't even retouch these images still, so you can see some dust spots and so on. About the Contax, good camera. The exposure meter is an average exposure meter for cameras at the time, is a meter with they take all the image with the prevalence in the center, so as the usual problems of that kind of images, if there are high contrast in the image, very bright areas or dark areas, but it's doing its job pretty good. The lenses, the 50mm 1.7, good lens, not a great lens in my opinion. I mean, I think the Takumar 51.7 is at the same level of the Contax 51.7, and the 28.2.8, that is in my opinion a very good lens, very sharp in the details. So that's something that I think I will use that lens more, because it really gives very great result as sharpness and is not affected much by flare and these kind of things. When I go out to take images, to test a camera or a film or lenses, I usually just go around my home here and I take images of places that I know very well, and I took images of the same places with other cameras and other lenses and other film, so I can have a kind of comparison, not a precise one because usually the light conditions are not the same, but still I can kind of compare the images. So this time was kind of a little different because I went out to take the pictures, and I was hearing from my balcony the sound of the cowbells. And when I arrived at the usual place, that is probably half a mile from my house, I found all the cows there posing, because here there's still the tradition to bring the cows down from the Alps, walking them down. And that is really, really nice. Usually they stop in this place to feed them, and then they start and rest them, and then they start a day later. That is very, very nice. It's something that is a tradition that is still great. I would love to do one day all the process to bring them down and do something more dynamic, but there's something that is absurd in this world, and it's something that every time the municipality or organization, they organize events, and they put I don't know, a cow and a goat in the main square to show the kids all the beauty of the nature and all these kind of things. But when they do this movement, and they know in advance, because they have to obviously close some roads and these kind of things, nobody says anything. So usually I discovered that they did it after they did it. So this is kind of an absurdity. We spend money, taxpayer money usually, to organize stupid events in the city to show the animals to the kids, and we don't tell them that they can actually go one day and stay by the road and see the cows passing by with the dogs and the donkey. They have donkeys to regulate to control the cows here, and so that's something that for me is absurd. We must also say that another strange thing, if you see the cows in their natural environment and you look at them, when someone will tell you that we have to eliminate cows because they fart and create global warming, you laugh to their faces. Nothing is more natural than a cow. So probably there's another reason why we don't have to go there and see what is going on. But it's very, very a beautiful tradition, and it's nice that there are still people following this tradition and try to keep what differentiated Italy from other countries. And I mean, Italy is famous for food, for example, and the cheese that is produced on the Alps is totally different from other cheese produced in factories, and it's become more difficult every day because with all the European regulations that tend to flatten everything, we are controlled to the last things. I mean, we are not even allowed to choose this flash system in the toilet, in the restroom, in our home, if it's not approved by the European Union. But there's still people fighting and continuing to keep this tradition, and the beauty of the tastes that we have from these traditions. And it's more difficult for them every day. Probably economically is not that worth, but I hope that we will get back to our tradition. We will get back to have little productions made in a traditional way, so we can preserve the quality of the Italian food and we don't become just another industrialized country with no differentiation. Italy is a very small country. Italy is the speciality of Italy is all these small productions and all these difference in tastes that you can find. You move from a region to another or just the next town, there's something that is different. With all this regulation, this is flattened out, and this is quite sad. But still, there are people doing it. So I really enjoyed to be there and see the cows, and I enjoyed to see a lot of people watching, passing by, stopping, sit on the bench, and watching the cows do their business in the field. So that was something different. So I took a lot of pictures of the cows and less pictures of other things. Not a great way to test the camera or a film, but that was there and I loved it. In the slideshow you also see images, for example this one with the street and the house behind, that I took almost with all my cameras during tests. And this is really kind of a perfect spot to test the camera, because there's usually a lot of contrast from the part in the front that is on shadow, the part on the back is usually as the sunlight, and there's the house that has very precise lines and trees in them, so it's very easy to see the sharpness of the lens and the quality of the film, how you take the dynamics and so on. And I have to say that this APX by Agfaphoto or Contax 100, if it's the same, are a nice film. Cheap film, the results are good. Probably if I want to do something a little bit more complex, I'm used much more with the Ilford FP4, and I will still use an Ilford FP4. But this roll of film told me that's a good film, so can be used to save some money and testing cameras and so on. This particular pictures is a road that goes up in a valley here, a small valley, and it's a beautiful place. Every time I like to, sometime when I just go out to buy groceries, I come back and I take a little tour on the road and I look around if there's some new lights, new images, these kind of things. It's a relaxing place to just drive by and stop and take some pictures. And at the top of this road there are some houses, and you can see an image here of one house. And this time I was there taking these pictures, and I was thinking, wow, everything is changing the world. People living there until probably 50-60 years ago, they really had a very hard life. It's in the mountains, so it's cold in the winter. The ground there doesn't produce much. There were people that in winter really were starving, and the houses are all built in this way with very low ceilings, usually to stay inside with the warmth of the animals, so you can survive the winter, and so on. And this time the strange thing was, we are in the same situation right now. If we don't stop this craziness going around the world, if we don't stop the morons in charge of the world right now, we will be in the same exact situation. While I was there, I had the radio, and they were talking about the shortage of kerosene for heating, the prices of gas going skyrocketing, and all these kind of things. They were talking that in the cities they are delaying the date where you can turn off your heating system. Yes, in some places, sadly, it's not you that decide, but the government. So there's still people. We are now at the 1st or 2nd of November, and there's still people without the heating turned on because shortages and this kind of things, because these stupid policies that we have and this stupid governance that we have. And this year was very lucky because it was quite warm until yesterday, but usually it's very cold here, so to have this stupidity of saving energy when we have energy is just the moron in charge that prohibit us to get the energy. So that's really sucks. And I was looking at that house and I was thinking, this is the destiny. And when they say that the socialists after the light bulbs they will use a candle to light places, it's true. We are going back in the last few years. We spiraled back in a way that is impressive. And right now, a house like that is probably better for the situation that the comfort we are living in now. And this is absolutely sad. The idea that to survive we will have probably to go back 100 years or more, and thinking to live again in small places with small windows and the animals to warm us, that really sad. So it is sad, this sucks. So there was just a meditation about the picture, and I loved how the film kept the contrast there. There's all the details in the dark areas, there are all the details in the highlights where the sun goes on the white wall. So pretty good film. At the end, pretty good film, and there are a lot of nuances of gray, so that's not bad. Other few photos filled with all the ground and the contrast between the ground and the background, and also there you can see that it keeps all the details in the shadow, keeps the details in the highlight, and it has very nice nuances in the mountain. I took these images all with the camera set in automatic. I wanted to test the exposure meter, so I let the camera in automatic. And you can see it's still good. Some images could have been, a little bit better if I corrected the exposure, half of a stop or one stop, but still everything is there, so that's good. Nothing more to say. Probably you saw the images and probably you skipped my rants, but that's a good thing. And I will see you next time. And this film, I used it also for another test with the comparison of different lenses, and that will be on the channel I think in 1 or 2 weeks, and there's good surprises in there. So thank you very much for watching, and see you next time.